the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Tiffany.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, behind me here is when we had delisting about a decade ago, and I think we had 3 successful hunt seasons in Wisconsin, and then it was taken away at that time by a judge from out in Washington, D.C. The coastal judges seemed to do us in each time. There were 26 very respected wildlife biologists that signed a letter that said, delist. You should not do this, Judge, because the wolf has recovered. And by the way, take a look at some of the names on that list and go look at their political affiliation, because I can tell you they don't vote for me. They do not vote for me, but they do know that the wolf needs to be delisted. This may come across as humorous for some, Mr. Garrett, but it's actually a sincere question. Will this bill and hearing that we've introduced, will it trigger an eco-grief training for some members of your, for your agency?
No, sir, and we earlier in the hearing gave a briefing on the status of that eco-grief. Would you like me to give you an update on that, sir?
No, I think, so something like this won't trigger another eco-grief hearing or
No, sir.
training?
No, sir.
Okay. So Dr. Roberts, you said it's, I think your quote was, it's no doubt that the wolf has recovered. And did you come to this conclusion simply through a formulaic way that just uses numbers purely? Or do you come to this conclusion with things in addition to just numbers?
Thank you, Congressman Tiffany. It's a combination of numbers and the other criteria that Dr. Servine mentions. So there's no doubt that we have passed the thresholds for recovery. And I also believe that there are the state regulatory mechanisms that are in place and competent authorities within those states to manage wolves.
Can you name 1 or 2 of those things that go beyond numbers that you consider in coming to your conclusion?
Yes, sir. So when states develop wolf management plans, and those wolf management plans set population objectives, and those objectives are clearly above the minimum threshold required for delisting. That gives me confidence, sir, that these states can manage these species. There's also sufficient science to guide that process. For example, Congressman Huffman had mentioned the concern about taking 30% of wolves in one season. And we know through scientific published data that you can take between 27 and 41% of wolves, have a sustainable level of wolves, not even cause a population decline at that level. So having published scientific data like that gives me much confidence as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So you heard Wisconsin hunters trashed earlier by a person on this panel saying that they blew through the number of wolves that should be harvested just, I think it was 2 seasons ago. Understand that that was mischaracterized throughout the United States. I watched the media do a hit job on Wisconsin, and it's been spread all over the country that supposedly there was like 117 wolves that were identified in the wolf plan that could be taken, and there was over 200 that were taken. It was over double the number that should have been taken. That was incorrect. Our Natural Resources Board in Wisconsin authorized 200 wolves to be taken 2 years ago. And I believe there were about 220 that were identified by the Department of Natural Resources that was taken. It was only 10% over. In fact, the trigger the Department of Natural Resources put in place, I would say to you, worked. When they only took 10% more, they shut it off when they knew that the number of wolves that are identified to be taken was about to be exceeded. They stopped the hunt right there. And I would say that it worked. And if you study the data, I think you will find that is the case. The wolf is in the Hotel California, and that's the Endangered Species Act. You may enter, but you may never leave. And that is exactly what's happening. And as Ms. Luna, Congressman Luna identified earlier, we are misapplying funds now to a species that is recovered rather than helping other species that could use that help at this point that may be threatened and endangered. It is really unfortunate that we have so much opposition to something that is so plain to see, that the wolf and the grizzly bear should be delisted. Thank you. I
Gentleman's
yield back.
time has expired.